everybody. What the flick? William Bibiani here. Alonzo couldn't make it this week because he's following Kitty Leukemia around on tour. So instead, we've got the wonderful, venerable Louis Peitzman of BuzzFeed.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And of course, we have Mini Shrub, the potted plant. Yep, Mini Shrub. Been with us the whole time. Looking for a plot. Let's take a look.
Well, it's official. I'm an orphan.
We both are.
Your mom's alive.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
George was an amazing father. Everybody kept asking me, who's the weird guy crying?
What did you guys do around here when you were growing up besides drugs?
We had sex.
It was really good.
Oh my God. No, it was not.
Bit of a misleading title.
Why do you say that?
Well, I thought it was going to be like a Waiting for Godot episode,
Okay.
or like that Seinfeld episode where they're like looking for a car, but looking for a burial plot.
Right.
Makes a bit more sense than looking for a narrative device with which to drive this particular episode of television.
Well, I thought it was also like a nice trolley title though, of like
Oh, yeah?
the people who say the show has no plot. It's like they can't even find one.
Is that what people say? I'm not on like the news groups on this one. What do people say?
I think people
about
feel like it's a
looking?
show where nothing happens.
Yeah, in a good way or a bad way?
In a bad way.
How so?
Well, I just feel like people think that it's like, you know, very aimless in that way and kind of about not people with no problems and sort of, you know, I don't know. I enjoy that kind of, you know, wandering narrative, but.
Well, I'm just curious what people would want other than what
I
we're
think-
getting on looking at it. It's just like, you know, Patrick really should be fighting aliens and he's not.
Right,
like,
right.
What do you think?
Something more like Homeland, you know,
Yeah.
action packed.
Well, I mean, do people consider something like Girls like more action packed or?
I don't know. I mean, I think girls actually might be a little bit more plot driven, especially this season. I would say it's a little bit more going on than looking, but.
Yeah. Well, what about this episode? What did you think of this episode in particular? This episode, we got Doris's father dies, and Dom and Patrick join her for the funeral and go
Yeah.
back to Modesto, California.
I enjoyed the episode a lot. I liked it. It was actually one of my favorites this season. I liked, because I was waiting for like, you know, a Doris episode.
We've
And then,
been
like,
overdue for one, haven't we?
We've been so overdue for a Doris
Yeah.
episode. So that was great, and there were great Doris and Dom moments, and like they're usually the highlights for me.
Okay.
And there's a lot of Patrick being incredibly dense and self-centered as usual. So I like that.
I like that we have an episode in which Patrick isn't the driving force, because a love triangle can only get me so far.
Right.
On a show, like after a while, I'm just like, God, just end up together on the newsroom. I've stopped caring. But here it's nice to see him in a situation where he's the third wheel.
Right.
And basically just there to be charming.
But I actually,
give back rubs.
I have to say I'm impressed by his ability to like make everything about him. I mean, he turned, like in that car ride, he turned like Doris's dad dying into his, like somehow it was his problem.
Yeah.
And the funeral became his grief.
The funeral, like there's this great moment on the funeral when my girlfriend started laughing her butt off when it says, I'd like to read his favorite poet, Walt Whitman, and you can just see Patrick already crying just
Yeah,
because he knows
yeah.
what's coming. It's just like, that's what was so funny about it. But I don't know, like a part of me wonders, I mean, you know, when someone close to you dies, you want people who are there, you know, to tell about the stories and everything like
Yeah.
that. But you also want people there to distract you.
Sure.
You know, and I thought that Patrick was serving like a valuable function.
Oh, definitely. But I mean, like, even Doris pointed out that he was being a real downer about his own problems. I mean, he was like, at the bar, he was just, they were trying to have fun. They were trying to like loosen up and sort of forget about the grief. And he was just being a sad sack alone at that bar.
Yeah, he's becoming that protagonist. Whereas just like we'd rather look at almost anyone but Patrick in certain episodes. I still find him very charming.
He's
But,
very
like,
charming.
After the explosion last episode, it's okay if he takes a bit of a back seat.
Yeah.
I think.
A literal backseat.
Literally in the
back
back
rubs in the
seat.
back
Just taking charge of the gummy worms, giving out shoulder rubs. I really like shoulder rubs.
Yeah, who doesn't?
Yeah, okay, good. But Doris episode, I'm really glad that we got Doris, partially because my man crush on Eddie was getting so overpowering that it was nice to remind myself that I also have a woman crush on Doris, because she rocks this episode.
She does, yeah.
Yeah.
She gets to do things she hasn't done on the show at all. I mean, she's always funny and she always gets great lines, but kind of to give her those emotional moments were so earned for a character that kind of has been sidelined for so long.
Yeah, it was nice that because she told her boyfriend not to come.
Right.
And they've only been dating for a short while. I can see that being a lot of pressure. I get it, but I thought it was really sweet and really said a lot about how seriously they want us to take that relationship. That it wasn't until her boyfriend showed up that she actually cried.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's just straight up good drama.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was so great that he showed up and it showed that he knew what she needed, even if she didn't realize that. And she has this thing with Dom, and also you kind of get the sense when you're hearing more about the relationship, which was great to hear, like about when they were dating, that she was really in love with him, that she really like loved him in that way, and that he never obviously had those feelings for her.
Yeah.
And so to have her have a relationship where someone actually loves her and can be there for her in a romantic way, it was nice to remember that and to have him there for her.
Now, one of the reasons we really wanted to get you on this particular episode with Alonzo gone is Gonzo wanted you to help gay-splain, as he puts it. It's a segment on the show I like to call Gay Anything. But there really wasn't that much in this episode that sort of baffled me. But I was wondering if maybe I can get your take as someone of the world. About just the idea, one of the things we saw in this episode was being gay in a smaller town where there isn't a huge gay community. There's an element of it that seems almost a little pathetic. And in this particular episode, they talk about how sad it was for Patrick to be growing up in that situation.
Right. I think. Well, actually, I don't know. I think that sort of it was a sign of how times were changing. That Patrick, they went to that bar, and Patrick assumed that one guy there was lonely, and he actually had a boyfriend.
Wasn't that nice?
It was great, but I think that's kind of like the idea that they have is sort of an old-fashioned notion that you kind of live in this small town, and that you stay in the closet, or that you're
There's only like 5 gay people in the entire community.
And I think that's probably changing very quickly.
Yeah.
And even the guy, I mean, Dom comes out to someone he knew in high school who's like, it's great that you're gay, who,
It seemed like he took it over. It seems like he handled that really well.
It was fine.
It was fine? What did he do wrong?
No, I mean, he was, I think he probably overcompensated a little bit, but if anything, that just shows that he like gets why it's important to not be a dick about that. He sort of is like, okay, he's trying his best to be like normal about it, but he probably doesn't have any gay friends, so this is still like a thing for him.
So what do you say? And they're like, what's right? Like,
I don't know. I think you have to kind of have a non-reaction.
Just like, eh.
Yeah, it's just be like really almost like bored by it.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah, exactly.
How
you're
20th century.
You're so over it.
Yeah.
You're so over
honestly, we've moved on to trisexuality here.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. All right, cool. But the other thing was we really started talking a lot more about how Doris and Dom, and not only did they grow up together, but that they also, they used to make out a lot, and there was a lot of sexual experimentation, and they're still really close.
They were dating, yeah. They were like a couple.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if they were a couple or if it was just that they were really, really close and fooled around.
No, I think it was. Yeah, I think they definitely were a couple.
Yeah.
They went to prom together. They were like a couple.
Aww.
I think it was like that. And she loved him. I mean, that was like, I think he was her boyfriend.
Yeah. How do you feel about her completely bankrolling his restaurant? Do you think that's like really, really sweet, or do you think it's going to cause problems later?
I can go either way. I would like it to end well for them, but it's a show about people not finding what they want, and
they're looking.
They're looking for something.
They're looking for something.
And I think that she's
looking for a chicken window.
They are looking for a chicken window.
Yeah.
It was nice. I mean, what else are you gonna do with that money?
I don't know. Whatever the hell she wants, I guess.
It's nice, but it is like sort of this weird. They do have a kind of a codependent relationship. Yeah. And having Malik show up at the end, you see that there's someone else there for her. She kind of can be moving on with her life in some way. So maybe they should use that money to start a family, or it's a little soon, but something along those lines.
It's a little soon. A part of me felt like it was just sort of like, this wanting to open a restaurant subplot is going nowhere.
Right.
So let's just engineer a reason. Screw it. Doris's dad dies. Yeah, we can milk that for an episode, and then it's all just like a MacGuffin.
There was also a car accident that we haven't even mentioned.
There was a car accident.
I mean,
I didn't really think it was worth mentioning.
Well, what other? I can't think of another episode of TV where there was a car accident that like caused an injury, and like it's not even.
He looks like he sprained his arm. He says he says he can't masturbate for 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's fine.
He's fine, and it's gonna be a rough 2 weeks. But now he's got Kevin there to
we should
masturbate
We should at least mention that they
just threw that in at the end. Like what?
Well, see, it's so funny. I'm the same way, though. I mean, I'm kind of like, I got to the point where I don't care about this love triangle anymore. Yeah. I think that Patrick should choose no one. They're both better off without him. Like, it's, I mean, I think Kevin said the right things, but I was like, at this point, I'm like, okay.
I mean, like, for me, it's too little too late.
Yeah.
Like, you should have said that, like, weeks ago when he gave you, like, the ultimatum.
Right.
Which, part of me is just like, this isn't gonna end well.
Right.
A part of me just wants to skip to season 4 just so we can move past this and find out who he's actually going to end up with.
Right.
All right. Final thoughts on this week's Looking. What do you think?
I think that they looked for a plot and they found one.
Aw, that's kind of nice.
And also, I had emotions, which I always like.
Yeah, I had all the feels. This really nailed a lot of the really good stuff about just death. Death stinks, but it makes people sweet.
Very
And
profound. Death stinks.
Nice. So anyway, we'll be back next week for more looking at stuff, looking at you through the internet. Look at us more on What the Flick.